Morning, and we've been joined in the studio by Kanayo Obidibo, a public affairs analyst. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me after a long time.
All right, thank you so much for being here. Chukunonso Ekesiobi, a lecturer, Department of Economics, Chukwuemeka Odumego, Juku University, Ibarem. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right. Now, the federal government has announced a $800 million World Bank grant as part of its subsidy palliative measures. We remember that before now, during the COVID period, we had something like this, that some money were earmarked to share to Nigerians to cushion the effects of COVID. But to tell you the truth, me as a person, I didn't get any dime. So what actually is going on? Okay, so let me pick up to you. What's your feelings when the federal government said they are securing $800 million to share to Nigerians as palliative for subsidy removal?
Well, I just have two concerns. When the headlines started flying around, my concerns are as follows. One, we have had I want to say, an experience we would just like to forget when it concerns the issue of the word palliative. Because if we trace back to what happened during COVID, like you said, the palliative intervention by both the federal government and the private sector, we saw how most of these things were either unevenly distributed or were not even distributed at all. In fact, it got to the stage where Nigerians started raiding warehouses. The videos were trending then, and Nigerians were raiding warehouses, trying to trying to loot the palliatives that may have been looted, to reloot the loot. So it didn't really go down well. And now we are coming up again with the palliative, another palliative effort. So I want to say that first and foremost, we should just, for the sake of marketing the program to the public, I think we should de-emphasize the use of the word palliative and just call it 800 million grant that Nigeria is trying to secure. We just call it an $800 million grant that Nigeria is securing from the World Bank to address the expected after effects of the subsidy removal. If we put it like that, better. So that is my first concern. Then my second concern is this. As at was that 2011 or 2012, when the Jonathan government wanted to remove this same subsidy, and people refused, people protested, some of them make up the current ruling party. And somewhere along the line, they had to reach an agreement. Okay, we will not remove subsidy entirely, but bring it up, just remove some part of it. And in return, what the government did then was not to go and borrow to, ameliorate the pains that the subsidy removal will bring. Rather, the savings from the subsidy removal, that money that was supposed to be used to invest in subsidy, also subsidize the economy, especially not to affect the masses. That money now was what they used to reinvest in the economy through Shopee. You understand? So we had Shopee creating a platform where money that was supposed to be used for subsidy was invested into different social programs that will alleviate the subsidy effect. But this time around, we are having a situation where you are removing subsidy. This subsidy you removed, did it just disappear? This is more, okay, for this year alone, I think since Nigeria Extractive Initiative Transparency, a recent 90 report said that from 2005 to 2022, that the federal government spent $13.7 trillion, trillion naira, on subsidy. Then for just January to June this year, we have earmarked about 3.36 billion. So if you join the two together, it means from 2005 to June this year, we have spent about 17 trillion on subsidy. So now my point is this. If you are removing subsidy, you don't need to go and borrow to cushion the effect of that subsidy removal. Rather, you need to bring that money that you would have spent, you are removing, that saving. It's a savings now to the government because the pressure of subsidizing that product has been removed. So that money you are bringing out, what is happening to it? Nobody has said something concrete about that. Rather, we are focusing on $800 million that we want to secure from, or we have secured from the World Bank. So to me, it didn't really, it's not really clear enough. Yeah, it's not really clear enough. So that's why I'm saying that I have two reservations with this policy. One, our recent experience with using the word palliative, that didn't go down well. And like you rightly alluded to, that most of those palliatives, like you said, you didn't get some of them. So if we go down into the nitty-gritty as to how they intend to spend this 800 million, you get more worried. Let me stop here.
All right. Now, Dr. Hannah, what's your assessment? Something came to my mind. One of my nephews traveled to the U.S. last year for school. And the boy had to send little money to the elder sister and said that this is the COVID money they gave to me. A student that went to study. Now, what's your assessment of the whole scenario? We've had this before, and now they are coming up again with $800 million to be shared as palliative. Again.
You see, like you rightly said earlier on, there are things we open our mouth and say on television for the general public to listen to. This country, like you rightly said, I am part of the U.S. system. But I want to say that this is a complete government misplaced priority. Why are you borrowing money? You have not done census. You did NIN. How many Nigerians are we? How many people are in this country? The Americans know how many people that are in this country because death and birth are recorded. So, but we don't have statistics of who we are. And you are now going to borrow. Americans borrow, they have social security system.
And actually you're even bringing in the next question I wanted to ask. You said you're going to give to vulnerable Nigerians. So how many people are vulnerable Nigerians?
Yes. So you are saying all these things. Listen, Americans have their social security number for 9 digits of every individual. They know that when a person dies, there's death certificate that is minus. When we have a new baby anywhere, they have a central database in Virginia for social security numbers, which determines that you are an American. Even when you are not an American, they will give you a social security number, but on the card, they say not valid for employment. Okay? But at the same time, there's unemployment benefit. And this social security helps when you don't have a home. Don't you see homeless Americans? But they are being taken care of. You see? And they have agencies like the Oxfam or the Red Cross. In the morning, they go to those flashpoint areas where these people that slept rough in a shelter. You don't sleep outside. In a shelter, those that are sleeping on the train station, they will go and put them in shelter. In the morning, they come out. You see people being, these Reverend sisters distributing food. When I mean food, I mean a saucer of balanced food. There's orange, there's apple, there's everything there. So, okay, you are telling us, you said you never had anything about palliative, but I'm telling you that the minister for this concern, the lady, Zainab should be held responsible for the past. Like you rightly said, the word palliative. Why would we be talking about palliative? We are talking about the social problems we have in this country and government contract, whether we like it or not. We have signed an article of faith that this country belongs to us. They should be able to do what? Take care of Nigerians. We are talking about fuel subsidy removal. What does it mean? Where does it translate to? Now you are asking for $800 million. that would have developed certain areas where people will work. You don't have to give us palliative. Create job. People will go to work and come back. Americans doesn't give palliative anyhow. Even when they place you on social security, it is for a time. If you are having more than 4 babies now, America is interested in now those 4 babies should be having their social security, what we call the food stamp, on weekly basis. And you can only purchase food item with that stamp and not clothing and not drink alcohol, no. Because they make sure you eat. And at the same time, shelter is important. When you file what we call Section 4, you are entitled to a shelter that you don't even pay. When I mean shelter, it is furnished. There is carpet, we call rug. There is washing machine. There is a deep freezer for you to store all those things. You are going to pick from their Ruban, their everyday supermarket. So now, you are telling us another $800 million. Why are we borrowing money to squash? Then how do you determine these indigent people of 50 million? Who are they? Where are they? Are they of those people in the IDP camps? Yeah. Or are you now telling us that some of the Igbo nations that are struggling, there's nobody that we looked up to as indigent? Because everybody saying this, even the beggars send their children to school. Here. It is only there they have the alamajiris that carries Oba. You can't find our children roaming the street, hanging where there's people are eating food out of Bukota. But if you go to Meduguri, go to Gwandu, these are places, pass Potiskum, pass through Zuru, you will blame these our leaders for allowing children like that to suffer.
Okay, now, when the federal government is telling us of palliative, and so many Nigerians, especially in this part of the nation, are not seeing anything, I would want you, Ekesobi, to really let us know what palliative actually means, in the real sense of it. When you say that you're giving somebody palliative, what does that mean?
In economic balance, we can see a palliative as, I would say, a social intervention where you are giving some sort of not necessarily support, intervention, in the sense where it is welfareist, so that people. The palliative normally it's a short-term intervention, sure. So it's not a long-term thing. So it's just something to cushion the immediate impact. Yeah. I used to tell my students that the NYSC program is an unemployment palliative, and then they laughed and they said, "Why? How come?" I said, "Look, it's true. That's what NYSC does to me. The only relevance I can count in NYSC now is that it doesn't expose you. That is, it prevents you from being exposed to unemployment immediately you graduate.
That's right.
So what the NYSC to me it does now is sort of this kind of palliative intervention where as soon as you graduate, you are not exposed to unemployment immediately. It just gives you some sign of soft landing, welcome you into the real world of the labor market. So from there you begin to find your way. So you don't come out and you are swimming in the dark. So basically, yeah. So I don't think there's any other analogy.
No, but you see, when we go and introduce that thing in 1983, it was a way of trying to make Nigerians unify the country. But then there was employment. Yeah. Because I have not seen a graduate as at that time that doesn't own a car. Unless you don't want to.
Or when you get a job, then this housing allowance,
even
vehicle
when you are
allowance,
teaching
they come in
secondary school, you are entitled to car loan.
Okay.
So now my issue now is this: that's where the devil is in the detail. What constitutes their intervention now, or what they intend to do as palliatives now? That the picture is still very foggy. Then again, we look at what constitutes our national social safety net program. We came up with that idea in 2016 when this government came in 2015 with their welfarist, social democratic ideals, as it were, and they were going to, what did they come up with under that this thing? They came up with what was it called? cash transfer.
Okay.
That's part of the social. Then the other one is the National Social and Development Project. Then the other one is a youth intervention project. Now you see that since that time, it warranted that we create a social register. Because people were complaining, okay, you want to do what's it called, cash transfer and this thing. How do we know the people that you are, these vulnerable groups you are talking about, who constitutes the vulnerable group?
That's what they said.
But in economic space, vulnerable groups include the elderly, persons living with disability, those living below the poverty line, women and children. So how are these, this group now, how are they reflected in the social register? And the spread, like you mentioned, if you look at the register and the way it was built, you find out that majority of the persons that constituted that register at the time they started paying 5,000 then were people from a particular part of the country. And this part of the country, they look at poverty rates across the region and they say, okay, since these people, there's a greater prevalence of poverty here, these people should make it up. But we now ask, what are the metrics, what other fundamentals were considered before we got up this safety net? And again, in trying to now transform, or the evolution of this National Social Safety Net program, I think they have a coordinating office in Abuja, to bringing up this Ministry of Humanitarian Service. I think that's the ministry. In that ministry now, they domiciled a welfare, a national social investment program. Under that program, that's where you have things like trader money, school feeding program, graduates economic empowerment scheme, and what was the last one again? So all these interventions are, as we speak, they are ongoing. Empower is the last one. So you begin to ask yourself, how have we managed all these interventions that will now give you the reason to trust the government? Because there's a trust deficit. That's why we're having this conversation.
Okay, another thing now is fuel subsidy, fuel subsidy removal. We know the group of people that uses fuel, people that have generator, people that uses car. And now the federal government is telling us that they want to share this money to vulnerable Nigerians. Do you think this is going to touch the people that use fuel? I don't know if, because this is just what I'm thinking. There are people directly, people that, I know that once once it gets to transporters, the prices of goods and services will increase. So now, what do you think the federal government is trying to do with this palliative? Because there are so many people that will be affected directly. Are they equally vulnerable Nigerians? Kanayo?
You see, when I talk about government policy somersault, this is one of them. How dare you now want to structure something into this country? And in actual fact, the dissemination of the information to Nigerians to know what exactly it is that the government is, and actually from what my colleague said here, is zero. Okay? And don't worry, Amaro. Now this loan is what is Yes. It has a 0.5%. Every year it must attract. And between 15 July and 15 January and 15 July of every year, you must have done that. And otherwise, it starts to do what we're compounding and cumulatively. By the time you know it, this loan they have sourced would have gone into trillions. Who are going to suffer? The younger Nigerians that are coming up. No job, nothing. And you are taking a loan. You are cleverly taking a loan. Why are they doing that? I must accuse them. Because those of them who are now negotiating this, they must go home with something. Whether they like it or not, they are brokering it and they are going home with something. And that is why, for every bad job done in this country, somebody gains somewhere. It is obvious. And we don't consider, Americans don't share money, trade that money. No. Because everything must be documented. That is why you have the food stamp, you have food stamp. They don't give you cash. Do you know that they are bankable Americans, even before then? Even if you don't have bank, there are check cashers centers where you can go. There are no bankers. Once you give them check, they give you the cash. Check cashers, we call them. But yet, American doesn't bring your bank account with put money there. No. Because they know it will be abused. And people who are driving it they are all, I mean, I should be mild to put it that. Otherwise, no. This is fraud, whether we like it or not. There is no program in this country that has been formulated and put in the hand of Nigerians that is not abused. Not even one. Look at NSAS when it started. Look at COVID. Do you know that the Americans, if you're an employer of labor, that after the COVID, my friends, Nigerians who are having private businesses, were empowered. My friend, he was empowered. He came to Nigeria and established an office of electronics and computer in Anifo. He told me that this is what they empowered them with. Banks. So they were giving them money to do what? To update the effect of COVID. You see? So, but in Nigeria here, we saw COVID. Full stop. We saw everything about COVID. People went to, like you said, warehouses were breaking. And one of our sisters was shot dead here. Yes? After a woman. Yeah, he was shot dead. Why? Overzealous mobile police officer. You saw people who are vulnerable, who are hungry, and you are using gun on them. What happened to that police officer? Listen, in America, if a police officer is pursuing a thief or a criminal, and it was found out that he shot the criminal and the point of impact is from the back, that man is gone. Yes, even when he was having arms, but he was running. You shoot him. If you shoot him here, you are in trouble. That's America for you. Because they value life. We don't value life. Zainab is telling us that what government has provided and is procuring from World Bank, how does it reflect to the 36 states and then, federal capital, Abuja? Like you rightly said, our people down there don't even know that there was a palliative, because the word palliative, like you said, is a short-term measure.
Yeah. And to cushion the effect, there's something you want to
say. And what I wanted to say is this: like he has, been hammering, the data. Our data. You cannot plan without adequate data.
Yeah, sure.
Data must be available in the right quantity and quality.
When we talk about data, there's something I was arguing. This name or something. I was telling them one day I went to their office. Yeah. Is it not possible that you people have your men in hospitals in a situation where they give birth to a child, you register the child immediately? It's not going to help us so that the surge in your offices will reduce.
What I'm talking about data in this sense is this. In the little that has been made public, we are told that that's 800 million is for 50 million
persons, yes.
And you now say, okay.
And they said, 10 million households.
10 million households translating to 50 million Nigerians. So on the average, they believe that an average household should make up of 5 occupants, the parents and the 3 kids. But we know that if we look beyond that average, it doesn't hold.
Sure.
That's one. Then secondly, remember that the National Bureau of Statistics, we are not saying external bodies now, the National Bureau of Statistics released the report that said that's sometime last year, that we have about over 100 million Nigerians who are multidimensionally poor. Now, multidimensional poverty looks at poverty across various social spectrum, education, health, water, and so on, feeding, nutrition, and so on and so forth. Now, since you are aware that you have over 100 million, and you are providing for just 50 million, Is it the others, will they survive, the other 50 million and so, will they survive by the grace of God? Or through another spiritual palliative? That's one. Then secondly, the federal government used to give 5,000 as at 2016 when they commenced that cash transfer. And you ask yourself, the value of 5,000 then and the value of 5,000 now, I want to assume that the maximum they can give out in terms of cash transfer is 10,000. But what can 10,000 do now regarding what we have as inflation? Remember,
when
inflation,
they say the local rates are soared to 200%.
Inflation
That's
rates
in the news
as
this
we
morning.
have today is 21 point something %. And I feel that is being, too conservative. Our inflation rate, going what has happened to inflation, going what has happened to exchange rates, COVID and the rest, should be about 40%. But we are just trying to be conservative. So we now ask, with the truth. So if you give people 10,000 with the way Nigeria is, now match that 10,000 you are giving with what the actual price of fuel will become when that subsidy is removed. It will shoot over by about 110%, so that it will be selling, depending on which part of the country you are buying, it will be selling from within 500 to 800 naira per liter. So that increase has already wiped out any cash transfer or whatever in palliative they want to give out already. It will not even match it. Then we are not talking about what unemployment rate is about 40% today. What will happen to unemployment when this thing is removed? That means that there are some people who are vulnerable to being unemployed. Those who are engaged in casual work or jobs that don't have security. So those people are vulnerable to even be thrown back into this thing.
And we have statisticians in Nigeria. We have accountants, generals, and all. Does it mean all these people are not brought to the table before certain decisions concerning this are taken?
But I said it here that there are some people, we use the word cabal, who are good technocrats in arranging all these things. Yes, because if you remember, recollect that there was a time loans were, being arranged so that Nigerians will be given some, break. And those who arranged it became very scandalous because they arranged it based on the commission they are going to get. So people who are talking about this 800 million, those that they are going to get some commission.
All right.
And
So
listen.
You hold it there. We'll be back. At this point, the program is still Good Morning Anambra. And as FG secures $800 billion from World Bank for 50 million Nigerians, that's what we are looking at this morning. What's the impact? What is it going to be like in the nearest maybe few weeks to come? And at this point, we take a very short break. Let's feel the pulse of the masses and see what they have to say concerning the issue at hand. We'll be right back shortly.
Just disbursing money to the citizenry or to the citizens, I think is not the right thing now. It's not the right thing. What we need to do, we create infrastructures, create jobs for the youths. You see, when you create jobs for the youths and they earn the money by themselves, that would be better for the society. Yeah. Oh yes, it has implications because we are always borrowing every time, and we are not paying back. And you find out all our resources is spent in paying out the debt Nigeria is owing at the moment. So I don't think it is the right thing to do at the moment. Democracy and government is a social contract. They owe some duties to the populace, to Nigerian citizens, and that one of the duties is to create jobs, protect lives and properties and the rest. You see, security is the greatest challenge we are having in this country. Without security, you cannot go about your normal business. So I believe providing money to the citizens now is a misplaced priority. It's not the right thing to do at the moment. Thank you.
Thinking on the side of the federal government, getting an 800 billion naira loan from the World Bank to distribute to 50 million Nigerians is a good venture. If and only if the money will be properly utilized and shared or given to 50 million less privileged Nigerians. That is what I stand for. It is a good innovative on the side of federal government. I'm in support of that.
The federal government does not have interest on the masses. So the money you are talking about, they will share it among themselves. So sharing it among the youth is just a fallacy. So anything that have to do with federal government in Nigeria, count it off. We are not interested.
It's a nice development. It's a welcome one. Money is to help develop the society. If it gets down to the grassroots and people use it, they will add up employment and money will circulate. But just that the people are on the top of their fair at times, they don't make this money get down to people that need it. And that's been a big problem. So if they can get this money and put trusted people to supervise and verify actually if this money were used for the purpose of bringing it out, that would be nice.
Amaramma bụ ego Nigerian government natara ndị World Bank. Mana ofu nsogbu dị n'isi ka eke nke a na-akpọ unconditional cash transfer bụ na the privileged ones, ya bụ ndị nọ n'ọkwa ọchịchị ga-ede aha ha, dee aha ụmụfa, dee aha ụmụfa, ibu ma ndị nwụrụ anwụ ma ndị dị ndụ, edejucha afafa n'akwụkwọ, ewere dị ego ọlọpụọ ya na one family. Ndị ekwesịziri inye dị ego ahụ ka ha wee baa uru, ka ha wee nyere ndụ ha aka ịga merụtụ ha aka, maka na ha enwere mmadụ, ha enwekwuru ọnụ okwu. N'ihi ya atụpọtụrụ ma na ama ekwe ka eke ya eke. Ife na-ekwu na federal gọọmenti weta ya, ọ bụrụ ọsọ prison na police station na amị barak ha ga na-arụ na South East, ha bịa rụọrọ anyị ezigbo ụzọ, mere anyị developmental projects, ihe ga-abụ efu ya ikweta na i belong to a country, ma ọ rụkwa na ike ego nke ahụ fafafafa ahụ.
The last speaker got me there. Fa. You know, a lot of speakers there, they were of the opinion that this is not the right time or the right thing to do or the right way. They don't believe that it should be done at this point in time. So I don't know your take on that.
Like I was saying, we are an oil-producing state, top
Nation
in the world, and we had refineries that were functioning at a time. And today, you are talking about palliative, when the raw product that we can prospect, refine, and even if we are selling to all the sub-regional states here, it's okay, Nigeria will make money, because whatever fuel that is subsidized and they brought in here is being channeled to our neighboring countries. So why can't our refineries function? Why do we talk about palliative, talk about removal of subsidy when we don't have functional refineries? We are waiting for one man, like my colleague said here, just one man to do a refinery that will serve 250 million people or 3 million people as projected. By next month, we are talking of our census. After the census, what next? What do we do with those statistics? So what I'm trying to say is that if $800 million should have been pumped into functional refineries. In Texas, state of Texas alone, in Houston has more than 35 refineries, because Texas is known as oil state. And Houston, as one of the cities, have refineries everywhere. So why can't we talked about modular refineries, even to cushion the effect of no fuel within our localities. But we keep on burning down those modular refineries, not encouraging them. Today, we have seen the effect of fuel because it touches everybody, whether you like it or not. I went to Ghana. I didn't hear or didn't listen to generator. Then I asked. I said, the generator is bad market here. You don't find it sold anywhere in the shop. Ghana here. Electricity is 24 hours.
I can testify to
I was there for 1 week. I just came back last Wednesday. And I felt that why would Nigeria, our Zik, Nkrumah, all those Pan-Africanists that fought for independence, when you go to their countries, you will, apart from those who went into war, if you go to Senegal, you find out that there are succession plans bed by their, their front nationalists at the time. Nkrumah did the same thing. In Nigeria, where is what Zik put in place at the time?
All right, I don't know what actually is the impact this is going to have on the nation, as the country, federal government continues to borrow money to do things that, according to generality of Nigerians, that they should use that money to, build refineries and all whatnot. So, and once the federal government say they are doing something, they are going ahead to do it. We all know that. What do you think will be the impact of this on the Nigerian nation?
The subsidy removal?
Yeah, the money they are getting.
Well, we have complained and complained that, look, we are borrowing somewhat irresponsibly. If you watch the other, not of recent, where Nigerian delegation that's attended this IMF summit, where we are trying to also apply for loans or to access loans. There was a protest there. By some Nigerian NGOs, contingents there. There was a protest. That's an international embarrassment. And the question is, their argument was, ask these people what they've done with the one who have
they took.
They took.
And I learned the Nigerian government actually applied for waiver or something, and they were denied.
They were denied. Now the thing is this: this government is living already. Is living on with 77
No, 177 trillion by the time they will leave office on 29th May.
I'm referring to the external debt.
Okay.
Or the total debt of 77 billion.
Okay.
Now, if you add the central bank ways and means,
yes,
the money that the central bank has been borrowing or lending to the federal government illegally, because it's supposed to be 5% of your previous year revenue, but we have shot it by over 2,000%. So about 23 trillion. If you add that one to it, so you see that we are just building up, debt stock. It doesn't mean that yes, there are one or two projects that we can find here and there. Railway projects, second Niger Bridge, and so on and so forth. But what are the real costs of these projects? Over-bloated projects. Now, if we continue to take this kind of debt, remember I was part of the radio program Press Review, just like day before yesterday, where you were saying that we needed that we are using 96% of our revenue to service
debt.
So,
and debt.
At the point when we did borrowing stop, it is important to watch revenue, because the federal government, when they want to justify this borrowing, they tell us, we have a very healthy debt to GDP ratio. True, but if we look away from that, what is one of the things that is fueling that GDP is your revenue. So we say, instead of looking at debt to GDP ratio, look at debt to tax ratio, debt to revenue ratio. You see that we are already in coma. Yes, and we want to continue borrowing. What that means is that if you earn 100 naira, you only have about 5 naira 60 kobo to take care of yourself. You are using 94 naira to pay debt. So is it that 5 naira that you use to, pay salaries, provide infrastructure, and so on and so forth? So the fiscal space of the current government is almost unsustainable. So if we continue borrowing like this, just know that we are pushing ourselves into an era where there will be a debt crisis, and by then we must have mortgaged the future, the economic future of generations to come. So the thing is this: nobody is talking about doing the right things. Nobody is talking about cutting the cost of governance. The cost of governance itself is greater than the cost of the projects the government is even embarking on. So nobody is talking about cutting the cost of governance. we have an Orasanya report long ago where Orasanya, yes, that's the name.
Yeah, Orasanya.
A report where we had to, the reports trying to look at how to cut the cost of governance, trying to merge certain ministries, departments, and agencies that have similar functions. Nobody has said anything about that. Nobody has said anything about restructuring. Nobody has said, okay, now we are talking about. Chief was talking about what is happening to refineries. Mind you, we just passed the Petroleum Industry Act.
Yes.
And that Petroleum Industry Act was supposed to fully deregulate the downstream sector.
Yeah.
Then what after that act, what next? You see, that's the thing with coming up with policy and nobody follows up. Instead we are having a situation where
in Nigeria it's
the
been
new NAPC Limited are arguing about who stole what.
In Nigeria, most times we have beautiful policies, but the issue is on implementing the policies at hand. What do you think Nigerian government should be doing at this point instead of, borrowing to share money to, less privileged Nigerians?
The shameful part of what we are experiencing now is that we have other countries, developing countries, developed countries. Can't we borrow the good things they are doing? Can't we look at how they are functioning? And I felt bad because most of these technocrats, most of these drivers of our government went to good schools. And 90% of them passed through government scholarship, particularly in the north. And what did you bring back home from your experience? Is it what we are witnessing? Look at it. You bring up, you polish a program, a policy, you come up with it, it looks bright, it looks this, but it is not implementable by us. Not that that when they craft it and they look at it, the concept of super and everything, but still, at the end of the day, it becomes a failure. That is your question. Why? The failure is from us because there are no consequences for people trying to, circumvent government intentions, good intentions for the people. So, because there are no consequences, you will go to JAMB office, Agwo will no ego, Ononya, Onomia, Agwo. When you know that Agwo doesn't chew cord. So all you should do is to operate the Agwo and whoop the guy. For Agwo. So there are imaginary stories that have been told in this country that people are laughing at us. Because to them, why are you doing this? Look at, we have mopped up Naira and we saw Naira being shredded. And after all the somersaults, we went back to continue to dispense the same Naira. Who formulated that policy? Did you see the effect of it? Do you know how many people that died? So when you see, we don't have value for our persons. Otherwise, if you formulate a very bad policy in a good country, you will pay for that. Look at what they are saying in the National Assembly. After 5 years, you must have done this practice in Nigeria before you think of going out. Who told you that?
After
a doctor.
Paying
Yes.
school fees for the doctor. It's you that paid school fees.
Yes, so.
Okay. Now, one of the voices on the television that we interviewed said something that it's good to share the money, but at the end of the day, that all these elites will write down the names of their relatives and whatever, and share the money to them. And do you think the aim is not defeated with what that person is saying?
I'm not against giving some sort of,
palliative to Nigerians.
No, but we first and foremost have to assess what we have been doing so far. If this money is going to go to these same channels we have existing,
then forget about it. Yeah.
Because we are not talking about, the accurate data. How many people are benefiting? Are those people real? Where are they located? And so on and so forth. The monitoring of how this thing is done. And again, not just the monitoring. It helps to now look at how we assess these projects or these programs so that they become better. Like the social register I talked about. What has been going on to, in terms of effort, trying to update the register. Because as day goes by with the kind of hardship, more and more people are entering the poverty trap.
Yes.
So how do you update the register to include more persons who previously ought to have been included? Then I now ask again, instead of looking at always trying to give people and the rest, why not come the other way around and make most of these things available, so that we don't even need to start to give people welfare checks and the rest of them. We come and say, okay, we are talking of interventions. Why can't we say, for instance, if we want to reduce the price of maybe the impact of this subsidy on food, why not we say, okay, we bring unions of transporters and this thing, come in, let's do this together. We can go borrow from what they did in Shopee, where instead of bringing in buses, they told the local manufacturers to produce this food, and the money is spent within the country instead of spending it outside. Why can't we say, for instance, I was talking about food, in one of your press review when you this morning when we were in the waiting room, you mentioned something about fertilizer. Why can't we come in and say, okay, instead of giving farmers money to buy fertilizer, let us encourage people to accelerate the production of fertilizers, so that by excess supply, price will come
down.
Understand? Then we talk of education and health. Look, the current school feeding program, that thing, if you compare the quality of the food they should eat with the money we spent there, it's nothing to write home about. How can we now improve on the quality of what they eat, so the nutritional balance will be there? And what's it called? Even security is still a problem.
Very big problem, very big one.
So if you do all these things and you don't address insecurity, there's still a challenge. So these are areas I feel the federal government should be looking at. I mentioned the petroleum industry.
Yeah.
We should be talking about how come we have 4 refineries in this country and they are not working. Every year, monies are allocated to those refineries. But nobody is saying anything.
All right. What do you think is the way forward? Our time is fast.
Well, the way forward is that I want to thank the youth that have made it possible for them to be very political. And that is the only way. You saw that this past election, the youth now know that they have that political strength and power. And if they come out to vote, there must be a change. We are talking about change, but not within this bracket of present-day leaders. No. They have failed, whether we like it or not. Look at policies they have formulated, and each one, like you have enumerated here, failure. So when getting bog at them, I want bought to know, I will bought to know, or we will happy alako. And I am
I know that you're trying to say that we need to re-strategize. Right. That's what you're saying in effect. Okay. All right. Our time, we don't have time again, but we'd like to thank you so much, Kanayo Obidibo, for your time here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We also appreciate you,
ABS.
Chukunonso Ekesiobi. Thank you so much
It's a
for being here. All right, that's just about it on Good Morning Anambra Show. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye for now.
Yeah.